Well, the holidays, they're over, but the credit card debt from the holidays, well, that's still here. A survey from Credit Card Insider shows 22% of people still had credit card debt from the 2019 holiday season when they started this holiday season, which is why we're joined today by Nathan Grant from Credit Card Insider. We're going to allow you to text your questions about credit card debt and ways to get rid of credit card debt, the best ways to actually use a credit card. And this is how you text your questions, 336-379-5775. Remember, do not call. This is a text only. All right, so let's first and foremost take a look at how people spent money for the holidays this season. Credit Card Insider surveyed shoppers to see what kind of payment method they were using, and 57% said they used a credit card. 34% said they used their debit card. So when you see those kinds of numbers, is that really a surprise? Is it kind of in line with most other years?
Yeah, we just noticed more and more credit card use, even though both methods work for online shopping. Because there's been a trend of more online shopping lately, we tend to see the numbers move along with that trend as well. So the good thing is it's more secure to use a credit card than a debit card when doing online transactions. So it's actually kind of a good trend to see as long as you're being responsible with your credit cards.
All right, and so that gets us to this. So balance transfers are a very popular thing. When you look at your balances and you see, I'm not going to be able to pay these off in enough time so that I can actually work on the principal and not just the interest. So kind of talk about how the balance transfer works.
So yeah, that you brought up a good point. With balance transfers, you're basically using that to target the interest that comes along with using your credit card. So paying the balance down is one thing, but if each month you're carrying a balance and it has a percentage, especially some of the cards get to pretty high APRs out there, that's a lot of money that you're just throwing away to just interest. And ideally, you want to pay your balances down in full every month, and then your grace period will prevent you from even accruing any interest. But realistically, people get into credit card debt. Once you have credit card debt, you want to target that interest, and transferring a balance to a card that has like an introductory 0% APR offer or something like that can make that much easier.
And that is real. There are balance transfer cards that have that 0% APR transfer for that, but you do have to know that you are going to pay a fee for this. So you have to look at that and make sure it's worth it for you.
Yep, there are cards that have 0% offers and zero transfer fees, but just like any credit card, they're all dependent on your approval based off of your credit scores and other factors. So you just got to do some research, see which ones you want to apply for, and obviously make sure you haven't applied for too much credit recently.
Gotcha. And it's normally the fee is like about what, 2-3% of the balance that you're transferring?
It's different per card, per issuer, but that's generally what you should look at. And so what you should do is do the math and figure, what am I going to be spending over these months on interest? Do the math and see how much that would add up to. And usually the fee is less than that. And that makes it more, a better benefit for you overall, especially with some of the longer periods.
So a balance transfer allows you to breathe a little bit because you're not paying interest on all of that debt that you have. The big issue is that you have to actually pay those credit card payments. Otherwise, you can get yourself into some really big problems.
Yes, correct. The thing about it is it's not eliminating your debt. It's just moving it into a way to be able to pay it off a little easier. So a lot of times people might fall back on that original credit card they paid off and start adding more debt, and then you're basically doubling your debt. So you just want to make sure that you plan ahead, figure out. A good thing to do is, like, if you get, let's say you get a year of 0% interest or 2 years, figure out just what you could pay a month to get that paid off completely without any interest, and just plan ahead. That way you're not getting hit with surprises. And as long as you're not using the cards further from that point on, then you should be able to be all set with getting it paid down much easier than before.
All right, so that's key. Don't use the 0% credit cards that you put all the balance on. All right, here's a few from our text line. What is the safe number of credit cards to have? I have 3 now, but really only use 2 most of the time.
Well, with credit cards are one of those things that varies per person, your needs and your responsibilities. So if you're a responsible credit card user, there really is no set number that it's recommended you should have. It's just what you can afford to pay off, like I said earlier, ideally in full every month, so you're not paying interest. You're getting the benefits of the credit card without all the negatives that come with credit cards. So that's the first thing you want to think about. But I don't know, it's one of those things where if you have no credit, one credit card is a great decision, because you can start using that to build credit by paying responsibly and on time. So it's one of those things that you never want to say like, this is how many you should have, but it's all about how you use it and how you use them. So the more you have with good payment history and good responsibility, that's just going to help your credit scores overall.
But does a company look at you if you have like 15 credit cards, because you have all these stored credit cards and stuff like that? Do they look at you, and does that affect your credit score?
Another thing about that is how frequently you applied for credit cards too. So every time you apply for a credit card, it does a hard inquiry on your credit reports, and too many of those in a short period of time can actually make your credit scores go down. So even then, you might have a business, and so you needed a business credit card. You might have those retail store cards, and as long as, again, you're paying on time every month, it might not negatively reflect anything on your credit scores because it's really about how responsible of a borrower you are.
Gotcha. Okay. We're going to continue to take your text questions. We have one more segment left. The number is 336-379-5775.